Hello everyone, I'm David Boucher. Welcome to Return on Racing. Return on Racing is powered by Boucher Analytics, which helps race teams and drivers drive efficiencies off track so they can fuel success on track. Return on Racing is also brought to you by the Motorsport Sponsorship Accelerator, the most cutting-edge resource out there to learn how to find, maintain, and grow long-term sponsorship relationships. If you're interested in finding out more, please visit the Boucher Analytics website at www.boucheranalytics.com and use the navigation link at the top right hand of your screen. Okay, so big rumor coming out of the motorsports world recently that Porsche may not be sticking around in the WEC. Indeed, in an interview, which I'll talk about in just a moment, one of Porsche's executives in motorsport wasn't very committed to the idea of future campaigns. Now, there's several layers to this. There are what is being said, what is being alluded to, and what I think that implies. Now, as I was thinking about this became such a large sort of thought piece that I really wanted to bring it to you in its full depth, which means two different parts. And today in part one, I want to examine what everyone might assume would be the reason for Porsche leaving the WEC. With that said, let's just get right into it. Could Porsche actually exit the WEC? Porsche's success at the recent 6 hours of COTA notwithstanding, rumors have started to surface about the company's long-term commitment to top-level sports car racing. The Race, in an article bluntly titled "Porsche Casts Doubt on WEC Future," asked the company's VP of Motorsport, Thomas Laudenbach, to confirm Porsche's presence in the series next year. His answer was evasive. Quote, "It's too early. It is a tough period, but we have to consider a lot of things. But yeah, it's probably not the easiest time. I agree with that." End quote. In his full comments in this piece on the race, Laudenbach is right to reference the European car industry's challenges, and they're numerous. Legislation mandating EV adoption, collapsing demand for luxury cars in China, and a Chinese EV sector advancing so aggressively it keeps every German automotive CEO awake at night. Closer to home, Porsche is struggling, while direct rivals like Ferrari are dominant. Its parent company, Volkswagen AG, is stressed to the point of closing facilities in Germany. Now, as full disclosure, I should probably mention I own a tiny amount of Ferrari stock, but even that aside, it's hard to make the case that Porsche and Ferrari are on equal footing, at least in terms of performance. Forget the cars. In terms of performance, one is doing better than the other. Yet, against that backdrop, I believe Porsche's comments about the WEC aren't about lap times or even money, at least not directly. They're about power, positioning, and whether Stuttgart can influence the rules of the game. Yes, Porsche's WEC and IMSA programs have financial implications, but it would be shocking if Porsche weren't already exploring creative funding models, as rivals like Ferrari and McLaren have done. And we will return to those because these are very important. My hypothesis is that there's a larger point, and that's that Laudenbach's hesitation isn't really about what's happening on the track. Motorsport has always played out on multiple levels. Yes, there is what you see in a race broadcast, but then there are the technical battles behind the rules and the politics that decide who gets to write them or at least influence them. In my mind, Porsche's calculus is shaped far more by those hidden layers than by lap times alone. And believe it or not, money is probably not the issue. And we're going to look at all of this. Going back to money, it shouldn't be the issue in this case because motorsport, when utilized properly, is not just a cost sink. So on that point, let's just get one thing very clear. Motorsport is marketing, nothing more, nothing less. It is a marketing activity. Anyone with an understanding of the difficulties German car manufacturers are now facing who hears Laudenbach's comments will immediately think Porsche's WEC fate is tied to the cost of running the program. I mean, this wouldn't be the first time that a manufacturer left a series because the costs just seemingly weren't worth it. Now, that's not the whole story, at least in my view, but it is important to discuss. Motorsport generates passion, but passion doesn't pay for wind tunnel time, carbon fiber, pit crews, anything related to keeping cars going. For all the romance attached to it, racing has always been about marketing. When Porsche, Ferrari, Toyota, or McLaren invest in racing, they're not primarily doing it to indulge enthusiasts. They're doing it because on-track involvement has the potential to raise their stature and in turn generate more car sales. And that's the whole logic behind the saying, what wins on Sunday sells on Monday. The math works out even better if they can get others to pay for their on-track involvement. And this is, of course, where we have to talk about sponsors. From the very beginning, sponsorship has been the fuel that keeps the engines going. Wealthy patrons, tobacco brands, oil companies, tech firms, luxury houses, all at some point or another paying to buy into the sport, which in turn keeps the on-track action going. The pattern is always the same. Money comes in because those backers expect something out. Greater notoriety, brand association with speed and success, access to passionate fans who eventually, or hopefully, become passionate customers. There is no motorsport as you and I enjoy it without this exchange. The idea of pure racing, untouched by commercial motives, is a complete fantasy. The teams and manufacturers that last are the ones that understand racing is an advertising platform that happens to have lap times attached. In case in point, I've written and spoken about Ron Dennis understanding this first, and in the process, transforming Formula One into the powerhouse that we know today. Now, let's be clear. This reality doesn't cheapen racing. It's not as if brands are paying to affect the outcomes on track directly. If anything, being clear-eyed about what makes the racing world go round clarifies why the stakes are so high. A Le Mans victory or a championship win is worth more than a trophy. It's a marketing multiplier. And if teams can make their sponsors happy, well, then they've just earned another shot or two at trying again. This is where I want to bring this full circle to Porsche, because for a factory team, the brand is its own sponsor, and Porsche sell cars because they have a history of being a titan on track. In this line of thinking, to leave the WEC not at a time when only a handful of competitors are racing, but nearly all of their primary rivals are duking it out, seems very defeatist on their part. Then again, if racing really is just another outlet for ads, then based on accepted corporate practices, it shouldn't be surprising to see Porsche's WEC program on the chopping block, even if this seems like a puzzling strategic misstep coming from a company with Porsche's pedigree. What I'm arguing is that actually now is the time for Porsche to fight for the apex. On track, sure, but in a business sense as well. So in a business, you're either a cost driver or a revenue driver. And this distinction is made even more clear when a company is public facing. That is to say, there are public shareholders. Unfortunately for marketing departments everywhere, it's often very hard to tie a euro of marketing spend to an exact amount of euros in revenue. So it is often seen as a cost center. Now, does marketing generate revenue? Absolutely, because you can't sell anything if people don't know about what you offer. Marketing is something you have to keep doing in perpetuity to keep customers aware of your products and remind them constantly you still exist, which isn't a trivial matter in a world in which there is so much churn. And over time, the idea is that revenues snowball much faster than the costs it takes to generate those sales. Granted, hypercar programs are expensive to run, with some estimates putting a two-car program somewhere in the rough range of 20 to 30 million euros per WEC season, and others putting those costs closer to the 45 million euro mark. And yet, the WEC program is actually a relatively cost-effective way of capping off the company's racing ecosystem, with the 963 serving as the perfect halo car. Racing in the WEC is an order of magnitude less than keeping an F1 program going, and while it may be difficult to quantify exactly how much each WEC season generates in incremental Porsche road car sales, it's hard to argue that having several 963s shooting past several other Porsche GT3 cars provides ample material for exciting marketing material. More broadly, it's always been shocking to me that in tough times, people pull away from marketing, because this is exactly the time when brands should be creatively leaning in. I want to switch gears for just a moment here. Jean-Claude Biver is a man who transformed the watch industry, which itself goes hand in hand with motorsport. Here's what he said nearly a decade ago regarding marketing in China, a key area for watches, which also at the time was experiencing a pullback in spending. Quote, 5 years ago, everybody went to China and nobody cared about America. Now, because we have a problem with China, everybody goes to America and everybody forgets China. It's totally nonsense, and we are not doing this. It's the biggest opportunity. This is why we are investing so much. We are investing like never before in China. Number one, it's an opportunity. And number two, what is happening now? As everybody takes the money out of China and goes and puts it in America, our voices there are becoming much louder. We pay less and we have more voice, so it's the best way to invest, and that's what we're doing. End quote. In this regard, it is shocking to me that Porsche would even consider removing itself now or in several years from a WEC program. It needs to sell cars, and the way it's thinking through going about this is to move farther out of the public eye. And let's be clear, Jean-Claude Biver was talking about leaning in during tough times for an industry. That's certainly the case for automobiles generally, but we are in the platinum age of endurance racing where, as we've already said, many of Porsche's main rivals will in fact be in front of new and existing customers on a consistent basis. Let's assume, however, that Porsche has looked at its costs, factoring in sponsor contributions, and thinks the gap is still too large for Volkswagen AG shareholders to swallow at the moment. How have Porsche not looked at other ways of closing that gap, which their on-track rivals are already implementing to great effect? I want to build on that saying that what wins on Sunday sells on Monday. Racing doesn't just sell cars, it sells hypercars. All of us dream of owning a piece of the on-track magic, but for a very lucky few, the opportunity is available to fully live the dream, and some forward-thinking racing brands have capitalized on this. For years, Ferrari have been developing special race cars to enhance the experience of special clients. But this was taken to the next level with the 499p Modificata program. If you are an extremely loyal Ferrari customer, the company will manage a car that's nearly identical to the 499p that's running in the WEC, including transport to tracks around the world. As the world splits off into the have-nots and the have-everythings, I can imagine that demand for such a program is really constrained only by how many 499p Modificatas Ferrari can produce and manage. And the accounts I've gathered seem to confirm that. Consider this excerpt from Graham Goodwin on The Week in Sports Cars that was broadcast on May 4th, 2025. Quote, 20 of those cars at Imola in 2024. These are customer 499 Modificatas, and I think that the order book is almost double that. And effectively, it's funding their factory program. End quote. McLaren, a company that is always on the leading edge of commerce in motorsports, is actually set to pre-sale a sample of its racing cars for 2026 and 2027. So these haven't even hit the track yet, and they're going to do this via an auction. However, they are also taking a page out of Ferrari's playbook by selling customers a version of its upcoming hypercar. Here is Zach Brown speaking with commentators in the broadcast booth during the recent ELMS race at Silverstone. So first I'm going to quote the broadcaster and then I'll quote Zach Brown. Quote, it's 2 cars for the FIA World Endurance Championship confirmed, but that's not the only hypercar we're going to be seeing out of McLaren, because with information we've been getting from your team, you've taken some cues from what Ferrari have been successful with. We're going to see, is it 30 of those cars, those track cars to selected customers? Here's Zach Brown, quote, sales are going very well there. It's a big boy car. So the people that want to see what it's like to drive a real Le Mans race car, they're going to have an opportunity and the whole experience that comes along with it. Hanging out with the team and seeing the car in development and joining us at Le Mans, etc. And then we've actually sold the race cars as well. And we sold the first 6 in about 7 phone calls. And it's exciting. I think everyone's excited to see McLaren back in sports car racing, end quote. So here's my question. What's stopping Porsche from doing exactly this? The reported cost of the 499p Modificata program is about 5 million euros per customer, from what I can find with my cursory internet research. So doing some rough calculations, at around 5 million euros per Modificata style unit, 20 to 30 customer hypercars gets you to 100 or 150 million euros gross. So even net of ops and logistics, that meaningfully covers several WEC Works campaigns. Porsche, crucially, already have the 963 RSP developed, and there is no doubt in my mind, not a single one, that the company could sell as many more road-going 963s as it is able to produce. After all, this is Porsche we're talking about, with all the heritage, history, and passion that go along with the name. Surely someone at Porsche has floated this. Surely Porsche could sell more and more valuable sponsorships. And with the recent announcement that privateers can run hypercars in the Asian Le Mans series, there is a likely customer base for traditional track-configured 963s as well. Also, let's not forget that Audi, sister company under Volkswagen AG, is set to enter the ludicrously expensive world of F1 in 2026 via the acquisition of Sauber. Getting in was expensive, keeping things going on track will be stratospherically expensive. And sure, it's Audi, not Porsche, but the money all rolls up to the same parent company and back out to the same shareholders. So, yes, times are tough for Porsche, the company, for Volkswagen AG, and for European car makers. But all of this discussion so far leads me to believe that any talk of perhaps leaving the WEC is not really about money, because they have plenty of viable options within their remit to make the 963 factory program work. I believe that what this is all really about is the game that happens off track, which is often where wins are determined far away from any paddock or the pit lane. There are several layers of competition in this framework, and we'll return to them further on. But for now, we should focus on the two off-track issues at play for Porsche, explicitly mentioned by Laudenbach. Number one is the balance of performance, and number two is the long-term convergence, or lack thereof, between LMH and LMDH prototype sports cars. And I apologize, I'm going to leave you in suspense because that is where part one ends for today, and we'll cover all of that and more in the second part of this series. For now, I want to, as always, thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me here on Return on Racing. And I want to encourage you, if you like this, to consider signing up for the Return on Racing newsletter. This is a set of weekly quick insights delivered directly to your inbox in less than 500 words, with the idea being that you can utilize these insights directly and immediately in your motorsports operations. If you want to sign up for this, please visit the Voce Analytics website. It'll be right there on the front page, and I'll leave a link in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for spending your time with me here on Return on Racing, and I look forward to seeing you on the second part of this very special series.